controllers. I spent like 3 months in each area. So I was learning a lot, and I was like a sponge. I was really just excited to have a job, to be honest. But I really felt privileged. So I learned as much as I could in each of those each of those places. And at the end of the year, they offered me a full-time job at Merrill Lynch. So I stayed at Merrill, and I was working there. And as time went on, I started to take on a little more responsibility at Merrill Lynch. And I remember they anointed me the keeper of the debit credit report. And I go, what? The debit credit report? I never heard of that. So I had no idea what it was. And I was calling all my friends, I was calling, and I said, what is a debit credit report? I never heard of it. And they said, oh, it's the most important report we do here at Merrill, and you have to do this every Monday. Every Monday I gotta do this? Yeah, and you gotta get it out before 6 o'clock at night. They're like, 6 o'clock at night? So I was like, ooh, that doesn't sound like a good report to me. So I was in charge of the debit credit report, so I was very proud of that. So I had to do that every Monday. I had to do this debit credit report, and my entire career, I never figured out what the debit credit report was. I asked everybody around me, and everybody else, all I knew, I had to run to different floors in the firm. They didn't have cell phones back then, and you had to go to actually see people. I know it's a weird concept for the younger. There are not many younger people here, but it's a weird concept for younger people to understand that that's really how you get to know your competitors, and that's really what actually, talking about 9/11, that's actually what saved 9/11, is that we knew each other as fierce competitors, but also we knew our word was our bond. That was kind of the first thing you learned when you came to Morgan. That what you say you're going to do, you're going to do. That was kind of rule number one. So, so now I'm doing this debit credit report. I'm running all over the building at One Liberty Plaza, which is downtown New York, and it's taking me all day to do this. And I would crank out, this massive spreadsheet, add it all up. I learned to calculate, use the calculator really good, and went through all of that. And I did it for like maybe 3 or 4 weeks straight. It had to be done every Monday. So I'm doing it for 3 or 4 weeks straight, and I never get a question on the debit credit report. And I'm going, is anybody even looking at the debit credit report? I never heard of a debit credit report. So I start asking my boss. I go, what actually is the debit credit report? He goes, oh, you have to get that done. It's got to go out by 11 o'clock or whatever, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. It's got to go out. And I said, but what is it? He goes, I don't really know, but you got to get it on the desk. So I said, he doesn't even know what the debit credit report is. So this is my first introduction into this business world. I'm like, they don't reports, they don't even know what it is. So I decide to make it my first executive decision. I decide, I do the debit credit report a couple of 3 weeks straight. I never get any questions from anybody. So, and I'm running all over the firm delivering, making copies and delivering and collating and everything. So then I said, you know what? What if I do the debit credit report, but I don't give it out to anybody? And then they'll call. Whoever doesn't get it, they'll call me. Right, so I do the report, I have it all done, I got 17 copies already, they're all stapled, they're all collated, everything's great, and I leave it on my desk. And I don't tell my boss that I'm not gonna deliver it. I didn't tell him because he was too nervous. So I just have it on my desk, and then nobody calls me. Nobody even, like, where's the report? Nobody called me. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this again next week. So I do the same thing again, get it all ready, no calls. So I do it another week. So 3 weeks in a row, I do the debit credit report, and no one in the entire firm called me and asked me a question on it. So I figured, this is probably some old report that somebody did 30 years ago before I came, and the guy's probably not even there anymore. But this doesn't make any sense to me, this debit credit report. So I stopped. Right? So then I said, well, I better go tell my boss. He's either going to congratulate me or fire me. So I don't know. So I went in and I said, excuse me, I just want to tell you that the debit credit report. Yeah, is it ready? Did you get it out? I said, yeah, I got it out. I said, I got it done, but to be honest with you, I haven't really distributed it in 3 weeks. And he went, you haven't given the debit credit report out in 3 weeks? What's wrong with you? I said, nobody cares. Nobody really wants the debit credit report, so I don't know what it is, right? Just makes sense at the end of my talk, believe it or not. But right now, he's in a panic, and I'm sitting there going, nobody cares about this debit credit report. So then I go meet my friend who was at Merrill Lynch with me at the same time. His name was Joe McCabe. And Joe was just Ivy League. So how I got in there was just dumb luck. It really was. I would never have. I mean, first of all, my grade point average probably wasn't high enough. It was decent, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't record breaking. And it was very funny because Joe gets the job at Morgan Guarantee, and now I'm still working doing the debit credit report at Merrill Lynch. I'm asking him about the debit credit report. He has no idea what that is. So it turns out now, about 3 months go by, and he gives me a call and he says, Joe, I want to go to lunch with you. I said, great. So I go to lunch with Joe McCabe, and we go over to downtown, the dining room at JP Morgan and Morgan Guarantee Trust. That was the name of the company at the time, which was a very prestigious bank. I don't know if you know it, but Morgan Guarantee Trust, they used to call it a banker's bank. I had no idea what that meant either. I was like, a banker's bank. But it banked all the other entities around the world. And it was a really prestigious company. But I had no idea, and God forbid I should actually go to a library and do some research. But I didn't do that. I just felt, oh yeah, sure. So I go to lunch with my friend, and there was a guy there by the name of Jürgen Knoll, and I always remember he smoked like very, very, very slowly. You could smoke at your desk back then, and he's smoking, and he's not saying a word, he's just staring at me, and my friend is asking me all these questions, and at the end of the conversation, he says, Joe, he goes, would you like to work at JP Morgan and Morgan Guarantee Trust? And of course, my St. Peter's College training kicked right in. And I went, how much does it pay? And so he says, I was making $14,000 at the time. And he goes, 14,100. And I turned to my friend, I go, did you tell him what I'm making? And he goes, no. I said, $100? I gotta walk 3 extra blocks up? I said, okay. That was it. That's how I knew. That's all I knew about Morgan Guarantee. But then, a few days later, I resigned from Merrill Lynch, and I go work at Morgan. And I walk into the. I kind of waited my turn, and I saw this old guy come walking in. I said, that's the guy. So I go run up to him. I go, excuse me, sir, can I just borrow 5 minutes of your time? And he goes, yes, son. And I go, why is he calling me son? I'm like, it's very strange. So I said, well, look, I just started here. I've only been here like a week. I don't really know much about the company. I said, I was wondering, is this a good place to work? Are the benefits good? Can I rotate around? Am I gonna learn stuff? And he goes, son, you're working for the best bank in the world. He says, but there's only 3 things you have to do. You have to keep your integrity, your word is your bond, and you gotta work hard. I said, yeah, that's kind of what my mom and dad always taught me. I'm okay with that, I can do that. And then he says, I wish you the best and congratulations and everything. So then he leaves, and then I'm swarmed by like maybe 13 or 14 employees come by and they say, Joe, what did he say to you? I said, he told me to work hard and keep my integrity. And he goes, do you know who that was? I go, no. He goes, that's Lou Preston. He's the chairman of the company. I go, oh, I remember. So actually, the chairman hired me. So I interviewed with the chairman. That's what I told people later on. How'd you get in Morgan? Because I didn't have the pedigree. I said, I interviewed with the chairman and he liked me. He hired me. So that was kind of a little side chunk. I will get on the mortgage-backed business, but it's pretty self-explanatory. In any case, that interview was pretty interesting to me. And then, these emails, we'll never get to know anybody. And I was thinking of 9/11, like, had I had those emails, I wouldn't have known who to call, there would be nobody there on the other end. I said, we really need to know, trading is a personal business. You gotta get to know your counterparty. You can't just hide behind a screen and punch in numbers and never talk to anybody. I said, so I think what we should do, Jamie, is we should limit the amount of email traffic that goes out every day. We should cut that down. No one can have more than 15 emails, pick a number, 10 emails a day, and that'll force them to get up out of their chair, go over and talk to their colleague. And he looked at me and his head was twisting. He goes, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard." I said, "Thanks, but you'll thank me for that someday because it's a good idea." And I don't know if you remember recently, about maybe 5 years ago, the London whale. There was a story about the London whale. It was all about this email that cost Morgan $50 million, and they didn't know. It almost went into multi-billion-dollar lawsuits, and it was somebody who was sending emails. So I said, "There you go, Jay. What can I tell you? I'm glad I wasn't there when that happened." So I was long gone when that happened. Presentation that he gave late in the day, and before the presentation, he gave like a 50-page book out explaining the synthetic match duration book. So I'm looking through it all, and it's late at night, and I'm not sure if I'm getting this right. And I'm like, this doesn't look complicated at all. Looks kind of stupid to me. So I go up to him at the end, and his name was Iggy. I always remember Iggy Fanlow. So I go, "Iggy, excuse me, can I have 2 minutes of your time?" He goes, "Sure." I go, "This new product that you developed, the synthetic match duration BIC," I go, "isn't that like a 5-year repo with no rights of substitution?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, he goes, "But we can't call it that." I go, "Why can't we call it that?" He goes, "We can't sell it for a big spread." He goes, "The synthetic match duration BIC sounds much more complicated and much than a 5-year repo with no rights of substitution." And I said, "Well, that doesn't make any sense." I go, "What happens when this collateral comes back after 5 years?" He goes, "Oh, I probably won't be here." And I said, "Wow, this place has changed a lot." So I took the presentation, and the chairman was Steve Thieck at the time. He was the president and chairman of JP Morgan Securities, and he was out of office conveniently that day. So I take the presentation, and I take a pen, and I write on it, "This will blow up. Call me," and I leave my number, and I put it right on his desk. And I gave it to the president of the securities firm. So he never called me, never heard from him. So I don't know, maybe it's still there, but I did read, like about 3 years ago, that a synthetic match duration BIC cost JP Morgan $30 billion. And it was that collateral, for sure, it had to be. So I was like, okay. CC has crazy reports too, right? So what's the first report I hear? The debit credit report. The debit credit report. You have a debit credit? What's that? And he said, "It's all the customer debits and all the customer credits that you have to report." And I go, "Thank you." Someone finally explained what this report was for. I can't make it up. I can't make it up.